Listen, don't get me wrong, comic accurate isn't always a good thing. Take the tin can on Ant-Man's head for example. However, some extremely comic accurate translations from page to screen have worked wonders for the characters of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Let's take a look at and rank the most comic accurate MCU suits right now. The first Avengers suit had to be updated, if only slightly. Different from his first comic appearance, the suit became much more in line with a soldier's uniform than the skin-tight spandex worn by Captain America back in the 60s. However, the look matched much of his later appearances. What many people may forget, however, is the scary comic accuracy of the first official suit Steve was given. Prior to his joining the actual war, Steve was sent on a USO tour to try and sell Series E defense bonds. For this little song and dance, Steve was given a knitted outfit that exactly matched his first comic appearance, including the original shape of his shield and the wings on the side of his helmet. It's an iconic look, but it became so much better as time went on. The fact that the MCU basically used it as a joke kind of shows you that it was in serious need of an upgrade. Daredevil officially made his suited-up debut in the She-Hulk TV series, after giving some legal advice to Peter Parker that honestly a magic spell probably made him forget about it anyway. However, in She-Hulk, he did battle not only with a lame, spoiled rich supervillain, but also with the She-Hulk herself, wearing a suit designed by the premier superhero costume designer, possibly in the MCU. Not sure how, but it looks like Luke Jacobson got his hands on some old comics, and also Daredevil's Netflix series. Daredevil's suit is very similar to his comic one, all red with the iconic horns and red eyes. There's just a little extra armored padding for someone who realistically falls off rooftops all the time. However, Jacobson gave Matt Murdock a suit with the color scheme of his original appearance, with a yellow base that definitely doesn't remind you of your favorite hot dog toppings. It's not only superheroes who bring their outfits to life, and in Mysterio's case, he probably took more time than anyone. If there's one villain whose look I never thought would work in live action, it was Quentin Beck, aka Mysterio. How in the world are you going to get a guy who walks around with a fishbowl on his head and tell me I'm supposed to believe this is really happening? Well, I'll just shut up now. Mysterio's comic accurate look was all a ruse. The actual fabric and helmet never saw a second of battle, and the great looking suit that saw action was entirely CGI. However, this was very fitting with Mysterio's power set, and they managed to make the fishbowl actually look good. Which reminds me, I owe my friend Tim $10 from a bet we made 8 years ago. You might be thinking to yourself, how accurate of a costume could a woodland creature have in the MCU? Well, we all know that Rocket Raccoon is much more than that. However, his outfit is maybe not one of the first things you think of. Personally, if I saw a bazooka-wielding raccoon on top of a living tree, my first thought wouldn't be worrying about if he's wearing white after Labor Day. However, it took some time, but eventually Rocket donned a very familiar look to his comic counterpart. In Avengers Endgame, Rocket Raccoon wears a blue flight suit with red highlights and a red scarf that is very much matching his most popular comic appearances. Wearing this suit was a nice shout out to fans and really made you believe that a raccoon could fly a spaceship. Trust me when I tell you, there are plenty of super soldiers on this list to go around. One of the most comedic superhero appearances is that of Alexei Shostakov, aka the Red Guardian, in Black Widow. The Red Guardian was the Soviet Union's knockoff of Captain America, their very own super soldier to represent their country. He wore a suit very similar to Steve Rogers, only all in red and complete with white stripes and a white star on the chest. His helmet is complete with a pronounced white stripe that helped identify him as the Soviets' favorite hero who definitely beat Captain America in a fight that one time. Luckily, after all these years, it still fits. Kinda like how my high school jacket, quote-unquote, still fits. Speaking of super soldiers, how could we forget about the almost your next Captain America until you know he brutally murdered a man in plain view of the public? John Walker was chosen by the government to take over the position of Captain America after Steve Rogers left. He was given his own new suit to help build his brand, and even let his best friend be his sidekick. Eventually, he lost the title as quickly as he got it and was lost in the world. However, one heck of a piece of foreshadowing in the form of Valentina eventually approached John, offering the opportunity to make a difference once again. And it's likely that make a difference means some kind of morally reprehensible stuff. Nonetheless, John was given a fresh new all-black suit complete with the stars and stripes that appeared nearly identical to his comic counterpart, the US Agent. Moon Knight is probably the coolest looking new hero to enter the MCU in Phase 4. His suit definitely has some upgrades from how it appears in the comics, but it really is true to the source material. The comic suit is plain white with the iconic cape, but the MCU added a white bandage material similar to that of an Egyptian mummy. Other than that though, it's a dead-on match. Even Stephen Grant's take on Mr. Knight is extremely comic accurate. When he summons the armor of Khonshu, the iconic three-piece white suit minus the blazer appears while the Moon Knight mask remains. Both versions of the suit are incredibly comic accurate, but they managed to add in a lot of culture as well. Now we just wait and see what Jake Lockley's suit looks like. The Air Force pilot turned rogue Kree soldier Carol Danvers has a tragic history, but from that history came one overly powerful hero with a suit that does more than just change color. Carol served as a soldier in the Kree Special Military Force, but upon finding out of her true past and the Kree's manipulation of her, she fled, taking her military uniform with her. This military uniform just so happened to have the exact same pattern as her comic superhero suit, but something wasn't quite right. It wasn't until Carol went to a young Monica Rambeau for some help in updating her look. To match the old colors of her Earth-based unit, the two decided on the red, blue, and yellow color scheme that became all too familiar to every comic fan watching. Even the Kree helmet gives nods to other comic looks of hers. The MCU is getting younger and younger, adding the likes of teenage and even pre-teenage heroes left and right. One of the newest additions is the Hawkeye successor Kate Bishop. She had developed the necessary skills over her very young life, but when it came time for a super suit, she just so happened to steal one that would turn her into a target for just about every mob organization on Earth. Stealing the Ronin outfit is what brought her and Clint Barton together. Eventually, she believed both of them needed an upgrade. Not only did the design she gave to the New York LARPers make Hawkeye's look more comic accurate after over a decade of just wearing black leather, but she designed a suit for herself that was a 100% match from her comic counterpart. Yes, purple definitely stands out more, but when you can take down a whole gang with a bow and arrow, who cares? Doctor Strange's supersuit is definitely more about function. It's for this reason many of the staples of his outfit appear in live action. The Eye of Agamotto was originally holding the Time Stone, making Strange its wearer, and the Cloak of Levitation chose the Doctor to be his counterpart. In the comics, these are iconic markers that told you were dealing with the Sorcerer Supreme. Doctor Strange wears the robes and wrappings of Kamar-Taj, with his own style similar to the highest levels of sorcerers in the MCU. This look is extremely comic accurate, and while the signature goatee helps, it's hard for a comic fan not to recognize Dr. Stephen Strange. However, if he keeps blowing holes in his Cloak of Levitation, he's going to start looking more like the Scarecrow. Think back to the original phases of the MCU. We had super soldiers and genius billionaires, but what was the most risky property at the time? Bringing the Shakespearean look of the Norse gods to the screen was something very few thought possible, at least to believably be in the same universe as the Incredible Hulk. However, in the hands of one Kenneth Branagh, Thor really came to life. He's gone through several outfit changes between Asgardian and Sicarian armor, but his original appearance was the closest we got to being comic accurate. The first time we see a fully grown Thor is during his coronation to become the ruler of Asgard. It is here where he dons not only the red cape and armor he wears throughout the film, but this is the only appearance of his fully comic accurate feathered helmet. It's a great nod, but so impractical that I'm not surprised Thor never put it on again. How do you get the audience to recognize a very popular character in a mere 3 seconds of screen time? You give him his iconic comic outfit, of course. Though I'm not going to lie, having Russell Crowe call him my son Hercules probably helped the more casual comic fans. Hercules, the son of Zeus, made his debut in the post-credit scene of Thor: Love and Thunder, and it looks like he may have a bone to pick with the MCU's newest adoptive father. However, his green skirt and weapons holster, along with his iconic face mask, made comic fans know exactly who was kneeling before them. The suit is very reminiscent of ancient Greek clothing. It is scarce enough to show off the fact that Hercules does indeed have the muscles of a Greek god. It's nice, but personally I'd probably go for more of a Volstagg outfit look. Spider-Man's suit has always been iconic. It's had its small tweaks here and there, but just about everyone on the planet would recognize New York's favorite webhead. The MCU initially took a big departure from the comic look, brought to live action by the likes of Tobey and Andrew. The MCU's Spider-Man basically got his official suits from Iron Man, and designed later ones using Tony's technology. They still had the right color schemes and patterns to be recognizable, but there were clearly technological upgrades. However, most recently, Spider-Man literally went back to the drawing board when everyone forgot who he was. Peter Parker made a new hand-sewed suit in his brand new apartment all on his own, with very few materials. This suit is perhaps the most faithful adaptation to Peter's original appearance in the comics, though give it some time and I'm sure it will get upgraded again. Kamala Khan has made her multi-dimensional debut into the MCU, and with it came a huge addition of cultural influences on the suit of this Pakistani-American teenage hero. Kamala starts out as a huge fan of Captain Marvel in the comics, and in her Disney Plus show, before actually becoming a superhero herself. Kamala's power set may appear visually much different than how it does in the comics, but her final supersuit that she dons in the finale is picture perfect. The mask over her face and logo on her chest is exactly the same in the comics. And the MCU managed to add scarves and an overly powerful bangle that matches her comic book look but also adds so much more to the character in live action. Also, not to mention, but her Captain Marvel costume contest winner was pretty accurate as well, so points for that. The leader of the Inhumans, Blackagar Boltagon, has a unique look to say the least. He may just look like a man in a black suit with a fork on his head, but he is so much more than that. That fork on his outfit is actually a tuning fork that helps him channel his sonic voice capable of leveling cities. Black Bolt was MIA in the MCU for a long time. There was a period of time where everyone thought that awful Inhumans show was canon, but it wasn't until Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness that it was likely just set in an alternate universe. Anson Mount portrayed the noble leader Black Bolt in the MCU, and was dressed head to toe in the exact comic outfit. It even included the weird foldable wings that you would wonder why Black Bolt needs in the first place. Tony Stark was the first hero in the MCU to have a suit from the comics jump right off the page and onto the screen. And since his first appearance, he's done it somewhere around, 85 times. Each of Iron Man's suits has a comic counterpart, and if they didn't initially, they do now. Standouts such as the Hulkbuster and the Mark III match the comics to the T. However, he never did get around to his original all-gold tin can that he first appeared in, though he got close. Tony was one of the most comic-accurate origin stories, which means the suit he built to escape the cave in prison was directly from the comics as well. The big clunky suit built in a cave with a box of scraps mimics Tony's escape from the comics, and since then he's only gone up. One of the most powerful beings in the MCU multiverse has gone through multiple costume changes throughout her time on screen, starting from her very first full-fledged appearance beyond a post-credit cameo in Avengers Age of Ultron. Wanda Maximoff's initial outfit mirrors some later comic appearances, but if we're all being honest, it's just a red jacket. However, the end of WandaVision revealed the true Scarlet Witch and an updated version of her comic suit. The red tiara and long flowing robes was very Scarlet Witch-esque. But if we're being honest again, while it looked amazing, it definitely had some changes from the comics. However, Wanda is a woman of many fashions, and there is a random episode in WandaVision that may just contain not one, but two of the most comic-accurate suits in the MCU. Wanda and Vision's Halloween costumes are direct carbon copy and paste outfits from their time in the comics. Though at this time they just so happen to be a Mexican wrestler and a Sokovian fortune teller, not two of the strongest heroes in the world. Wakanda's greatest protector had perhaps the most faithful adaptation of a suit at the time of its first appearance in Captain America: Civil War. The slick, skin-tight, all-black suit is the perfect way to make a jungle cat look like a buff man who works out way too much. Complete with claws and a helmet where the only facial features are the small silver eyes. This suit is any criminal's nightmare, as evident by T'Challa's performance in it. They also created a unique way of storing the nanotechnology into the teeth of the traditional silver necklace that the Black Panther would often be seen wearing. Even Shuri's suit, when she officially debuted as the Black Panther in Wakanda Forever, looked very similar to the first time she donned it in the comics. Overall, Wakanda clearly knows how to make comic accurate look good. When you think about it, not many villains have gotten a true comic-accurate representation, at least when you talk about their suit. Sure, Ultron and Thanos look very similar to their comic counterparts, but that's all in the CGI, not so much in the outfit. One of the best villain adaptations, however, and one of the best in general, was Loki. No, actually, not that one. Or that one. Or that one. No, I'm talking about classic Loki. Richard E. Grant appears as an alternate universe Loki, who was seemingly the oldest and wisest of the Loki variants, who Loki met in the Void. Classic Loki's suit 10 years ago in live action would have been absolutely ridiculous. However, given his otherworldly nature, classic Loki was able to don the exact outfit Loki used to wear in his first appearances in the comic books. That look, coupled with some impressive power, made for a very memorable live action appearance. The far and away best page-to-screen suit adaptation came in the second series released in Phase 4, and it belongs to the new symbol of the nation and possible leader of the Avengers. Sam Wilson's Wakandan-made Captain America outfit is quite literally a spot-on match from his run as Captain America in the comics. After Sam relinquished his Falcon wings, Bucky used his connections to set his and Steve's old friend up to be the perfect successor to Captain America. This suit is so good that honestly it could have benefited from some tinkering beyond the comic example. For starters, might be a good idea to give a non-super soldier who constantly flies at high speeds and altitudes a helmet? Maybe that's just me. Regardless, Sam Wilson's Captain America outfit is perhaps the greatest example of adapting a comic look to the big screen. And on top of that, what an entrance. Whether it be silly or extremely useful, there's something to be said for staying true to the source material, and the MCU has done that quite a bit. Which MCU suit do you think was pulled straight off the comic book page?